Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists out of pointless things. Why are we flying by this pointless statue in Booty Bay? Because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 are the sea spire shells located all over Nazjatar. And the reason I love these snails is because of their shells, right? They remind me of a conch shell a little bit, almost like a spikier conch shell. And there's different colors. There's green ones. There's more beige ones. There's a whole bunch of different ones. But the crazy thing about the sea spire shells is the odd scenarios going on all over Nazjatar. So for example, there is one sea spire shell, and he is surrounded by 6 muck creepers, and it looks like he's just given a presentation to them. I don't really know what's happening. I don't know why, but he is. And then if you go to a different part on a bridge, there's 4 spire shells just zigzagging in a coordinated linear fashion. I don't know why. Maybe they're just having a good time, but that was also a little weird to come across. And then the final one is there's 9 crabs surrounding a sea spire shell, and they're all just going like clink, 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 clink. And it's like, I don't know if this is a reference to something or an Easter egg. Like, I don't know. Nobody on Wowhead seemed to know. I couldn't find anything about it. So if you know, let me know in the comments section. But that's why the sea spire shells are number 10. 9. Number 9 are the lava snail and the water snail, and these are 2 snails that are stuck in combat. There's actually 2 different sets of them in different parts, and they will like roll up into a ball and hit each other. They'll like smack each other. They'll do the old twist around. Like they really don't like each other. This is a battle of 2 elements going at it. However, I do think they both look very cool. I mean, obviously this is the same model of snail. It's just one of them is blue and the other one is orange. So I've seen a lot of people that are hunters tame both of these. So they have one lava snail and one water snail, which is pretty cool. And I also just like the symbolism of this fight's aesthetic. Like you have the water snail with the water behind it and the waterfalls. Then you have the lava snail and he's facing the volcano with the steam rising up. This is like a duel of fates. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think people are looking into this enough. This is an epic battle that has been overlooked by all the boring, you know, lore and all that stuff. Like, this is the real lore we need. And that's why lava snail and water snail are number 9. 8. Number 8 are Winkle and Peachy, located at the Seeker's Vista in Stormsong Valley. And I put Winkle and Peachy here, 1, because they have really fun names. Number 2, because these are the snails that inspired Pointless Top 10 Snails, because when I was doing Pointless Top 10 odd things in World of Warcraft, I noticed these snails, and I was like, dude, why haven't I done snails? And so I had to put them on the list for that reason alone, but it looks like they're just having a fun time. It looks like Winkle is the one chasing Peachy around, so I don't know if there's any references to this, but I don't think there is. I think it's just 2 snails with fun names following each other. Maybe they're playing tag or something, in which case Peachy is uncatchable. But I figured this would also be a good point to give some honorable mentions to Lift and Swole. That's right, these 2 snails are named Lift and Swole. And then I also wanted to mention Gary, who I believe is a reference to SpongeBob Gary, but I'm not sure. And there's also this little mouse guy running around. So that's why Winkle and Peachy and everybody else are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the deep bed dawdler snails, and it's a great name, number 1. And number 2, the deep bed dawdlers are rock snails located in the Cascades column in the Zaralek Cavern. And I really love the big rock shells they have because it's got some moss and grass growing on it. It's got little flowers growing out of it too. So I just think they look really cool. They're very unique snails compared to a lot of the other ones we've seen in the game. But aside from that, there's nothing that special about them, which is why we're going to be doing some snail facts. So snails are nocturnal. They don't like the sunlight, just like World of Warcraft players, which is why you find them more on cloudy days. Snails also can't hear, and to find food, they use chemoreceptors on their tentacles, much like a dog would use their nose, which that sounds insane. Snails leave behind slime as they travel, which protects them as they move. Snails can live for 10 to 15 years in the wild, but up to 25 years in captivity. They can be found everywhere on Earth, even Antarctica, and by most estimates have been around for over 600 million years. So yeah, snails are pretty cool. And that's why the deep bed dawdlers are number 7. 6. Number 6 are Shellmaw and the Grit Slime snails located in the Eye of Azshara. However, I have no footage of Shellmaw because apparently he only spawns when the World Quest Slug It Out is up, and it wasn't up. So he literally looks the same as all these, but he has blue antenna instead of yellow ones, and I think he's bigger, but whatever, you can use your imagination. Which makes me realize that there's probably not many other YouTubers that are like, yeah, I couldn't find any footage of this thing, so just use your imagination, idiot. I guess I could have Microsoft painted him in, which I used to do in my old WoW machinimas, but now it's too late. I'm already editing the video. I don't got time to Microsoft paint, so I've also told you nothing about these snails. I think they look really cool. They've got really cool looking shells. I think they're, you know, some of the most realistic looking snails in World of Warcraft, and that's really all I got. I'm gonna give you another snail fact. The speed of snails is around 0.5 to 0.8 inches per second, and if they moved without stopping, it would take more than a week to complete 1 kilometer. And snails do not change shells when they grow up. Instead, the shell grows along with them, and the size of the shell reflects a snail's age. And that's why Shellmaw and the grit slime snails are number 6. 5. Number 5 is the magma shell snail mount, and this is a mount that you can acquire in Dragonflight, and it was probably my favorite mount that I acquired in Dragonflight just because I think it looks really cool. It's just a big lava snail. It's got the little chains so you can guide him around by his antenna things, and I just like him a lot. I think he's really cool, but to get the mount, you had to go find these lava snails, and then you had to find an empty magma shell, and you had to go find the empowered snail, which you had to wait for it to spawn, and then like jump into the lava, and you had to make sure you didn't die because it took like 20 seconds to finish, I don't know, doing whatever you're doing with the lava snail to morph it together, and then you end up getting the mount. I also really like snail mounts because it's funny to watch this really slow animal go insanely fast. It just feels goofy. And I always think about how hot that seat must get when you're sitting on it, because the magma has to heat up the saddle, right? Like, it's got to start burning you down under after a while. Either way, that's why the magma shell mount is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the accelerated helicids, and these are snails located in the southeastern part of Zareth Mortis. And I love these snails because they just remind me of weird alien snails. I don't know. It's a really cool snail to see in World of Warcraft after seeing so many kind of, you know, generic Earth type snails, and then you just see these, which are these crazy brass-shelled alien-like snails. I don't know how else to describe them. They even have this weird aura radiating above their head. I don't know what that is, but that's pretty cool. I also learned that during the PTR, their name was Accelerated Gastropods, and then they changed it to Helicid. And I was like, well, what's a Helicid? And I looked it up. And Helicid snails are the Roman snail's nearest relative. Although I don't think these World of Warcraft space snails are related to the Romans in any way, but maybe they are. What do I know? But that's why the accelerated Helicids are number 4. 3. Number 3 are the racing snails taking part in the big snail race in the Zaralek Caverns. And there's 4 racing snails. There's Bruli, Tricky, Bashful, and Ragi. And I love that all of them have big crystal shells on their back, each one with varying colors, so that's pretty cool. But I will say, this snail race is one of the most insane snail races I've ever seen. There's like fans running out onto the racing track and fighting them. There's people throwing drugs at them to help speed them up. There's people throwing like piles of acid to slow them down. Like, could you imagine you're just a snail trying to win a race and there's all this shit going on? There's like a whelp burning the track. Like, this is one of the most chaotic things I've seen in World of Warcraft, let alone snail racing. And so, give it up for these snails, man. After going through all this stuff, getting all this stuff thrown at them and beaten up and slowed down and sped up, and having mole people with a Midwestern accent yell at you, they just keep going, right? They are true competitors, and that's why all 4 of these snails are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the gastropods, which are snails located in the Roost of Jikun in the Throne of Thunder. And this is probably going to give some people PTSD because these trash mobs are pretty insane. These are snails that will just one-shot you. They've been called LFR destroyers. I mean, these gastropods have probably killed more people than some boss fights in World of Warcraft. Like, these are essentially a mini-boss in the raid. So what makes them so confusing is they cannot be tanked and will instead fixate on a random player, and any players caught in front of a moving gastropod in melee range will be instantly killed. One fun thing about these snails is that they drop a toy called the gastropod shell, which allows you to summon and control Jerry the Snail, which some people do think is a reference to Gary, partially because there is an episode where SpongeBob gets a new pet named Jerry the Snail, so it could be a reference. Or they could have just decided to randomly name him Jerry. I don't know, but either way, that's why the gastropods in the Throne of Thunder are number 2. 1. And number 1 is Zoom the Snail, located in the Stone Dark Grotto Snail race in High Mountain. And one of the most notable things about Zoom the Snail is he's got some zoom goggles on. You can see he's got the racer goggles on his antenna, and you would think, oh, he's really fast, he wins all the races, but it's actually the opposite. He's always the slowest snail. However, if you stand in front of the other snails, which are named Helix for Brains, Glip Gloop Haberdasher, and Various and Sundry, you can slow them down enough to allow Zoom to win the race, and that gives you Zoom as a companion pet. Also, props to the Drogbar on truly knowing how to run a snail race. Like, there's nobody throwing stuff onto the track, there's nobody getting onto the track, aside from, like, you, but, you know, whatever. The Murlocs make sure there's no funny business, they all stand there with spears, and then the Drogbar are civil about everything. They even got Zoom's #1 fan right there, so I decided this was the better snail race of the 2 snail races, and Zoom is pretty great, so that's why Zoom is number 1. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of Pointless Top 10. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, if you want to watch some more Pointless Top 10s, go watch Pointless Top 10 Odd Things in World of Warcraft. I mentioned that earlier in the video, so go check it out. Or if you want more Animal Top 10s, go watch Pointless Top 10 Rats. Also, consider supporting the channel on Patreon or by becoming a channel member. Okay? Okay. See ya.